Okay, guys, I want you to think about the series we've been reading with Jaren, the Ascendance trilogy, and I want you to turn and talk about Jaren as a person. What words would you use to describe him? And think about how you know those things about him. Talk.
Okay.
Good word.
Is a good idea because
Yeah. 5. One. Hey, who can tell me something about Jaren that we learned in the books? Give me some words to describe him, and then give me one example of how you know. Andrew?
He's smart.
He's smart. How do you know?
Because when he, in this book, when he told them to put all the oils in the river and then lit on fire.
Yes. So you know that he's smart because of something that he did. Is that what you're saying? Through like an action that he took. So we can definitely tell about characters by their actions. Okay. What's something else we can use to describe Jaren? Olivia?
He's funny because he likes to outsmart people and kind of backtalk them when he's not supposed to.
Yes, he definitely has some kind of attitude when he talks to people, right? So I agree. We can definitely tell about Jaren, not just through his actions, but about the way he talks to people. Like the things he says, we can definitely learn about him, right? What else, Sadie?
He's willing to sacrifice himself for others.
So what word would you use to describe that? Could we say that
He's willing.
He's willing. Could we say that he's selfless?
Selfless.
He cares more about others than he does about himself?
Yeah.
How can you tell?
Because he surrendered to Avinia to save his country.
Yeah, he surrendered to Avinia. So that's another action. That's another thing we can tell through his actions.
He has faith.
He has faith. Why do you say that?
Because he fought with a broken leg.
Yeah, he kind of worked through.
He's
Yeah,
still not giving up.
he's so. Anyone know the word for that? Like not giving up. Not giving up.
Oh, I just forgot it. Ooh,
Starts with a P.
perseverance.
Yes. He definitely has perseverance, right? Like when things look horrible, he still works through it and still does a really good job, right? Can you imagine him climbing that cliff with a broken leg? Okay, so that's another action. Let's do one more example.
Mischievous.
Mischievous, why do you say that?
Because in the False Prince, the first one, when he was in the orphanage, he stole that meat from the butcher.
Yeah, he definitely did that. So that was another action. Another way, a third way we can tell about characters is through their
Emotions.
Personality?
Thoughts.
This would have been a good one, and I'm sure we would have had some examples if we were talking about the Hunger Games, because that whole book had her thoughts, like the whole time, right? She was mostly during that by herself, right? So it was all about what she was thinking. So we can tell about characters using their actions in a book, using the way that they talk in a book, or the way they speak to other people, the kind of language that they use, and through their thoughts, those things that they just keep to themselves that they don't necessarily say out loud, but they're thinking them as events occur. We're going to be reading a text called A Bad Road for Cats, and I want us to be thinking about the main character in this story, which is a woman who is looking for her cat, okay? And I want us to think about this character using her actions, the way she talks to people, and the thoughts that she's having as the events occur. Okay, we're going to stop and talk in a couple places. No, I'm going to read. Okay, A Bad Road for Cats. Louis, where are you? The woman called it out again and again as she walked along Route 6, a bad road for cats. She prayed he hadn't wandered this far, but it had been nearly 2 weeks, and still Louis hadn't come home. She stopped at a Shell station, striding up to the young man at the register. Her eyes snapped black and fiery as she spit the question at him. Have you seen a cat? The word cat came out as hard as a rock. Okay, let's stop right there. We just sort of learned something about this character. How did we learn it? Did we learn it through her actions, the way she talked, or her thoughts, Carson?
Her thought.
And what did we learn about her?
She's kind of fierce.
She's fierce.
And she likes the cat.
And I can say so because of
Her
Have you seen
the
a
way
cat?
she talked to the man.
she spit the question at him, right?
And the word cat came out as hard as a rock.
Yeah.
I said rock.
So if someone spits a question at you, is that a good way to be talked to?
No.
Or would that kind of make you step back a little and think, oh geez, I don't want to mess with this person?
So it's
Okay, let's keep reading. The young man straightened up. No, ma'am. No cats around here. Somebody dropped off a mutt a couple nights ago, but a Mack truck got it yesterday about noon. Dog didn't have a chance. The woman's eyes pinched his. I lost my cat, orange and white. If you see him, you be more careful of him than that dog. This is a bad road for cats. She marched toward the door. I'll be back, she said, like a threat, and the young man straightened up again as she went out. Okay, let's stop. Did we learn something else about her?
Yeah.
What else did we learn?
Action.
In action, what'd she do?
She marched toward the door.
She marched toward the door.
She said, "I'll be back," like a threat.
Ooh, and she said, I'll be back.
And it said,
So what did we say about Jaron that he had? Do you think this woman has the same trait?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? Who can raise your hand and tell me? What's that word? Colton knew it before. She's not gonna give up, right? She's been looking for 2 weeks for this cat, right? And she said, I'll be back. Like, I'm not gonna give up. You better keep an eye out for my cat and I'll be back. So what should we put that underneath? Action, talks, or thoughts? Raise your hand and tell me. Eli?
Action.
Actions. So we would say she has what?
Perseverance.
She'll be back. Louis, where are you? She was a very tall woman and skinny. Her black hair was long and shiny like an Indian's. She might have been a Cherokee making her way along a river, alert and watchful, tracking. But Route 6 was no river. It was a trucker's road lined with gas stations, motels, dairy bars, diners. A nasty road smelling of diesel and rubber. The woman's name was Magda, and she was of French blood, not Indian. Magda was not old, but she carried herself as a very old and strong person might, with no fear of death and with a clear sense of her right to the earth and a disdain for the ugliness of belching machines and concrete. Ooh, we just learned something about her. What did we learn about her? How she
thinks about.
Nope, look back at that paragraph. We did learn how she looks, but I want to focus on actions, her talk, and her thoughts.
It says, Magna was not old, but she carried herself as a very old and strong person.
Yeah, does that tell you you something about her?
That
She's like a strong person. Like, she has self-confidence. She carries herself as someone that's older might. Not someone who's younger. Like, when you see, like, younger people, right, like, we slouch, right? You might walk, like, slower. Like, she carries herself strong. So that's a what?
action.
Action. She's strong. She carries herself as a very old and strong person might. Yes, Carson?
It also, she's not scared of death.
She's not scared of death yet because she's a strong person.
Strong and very.
Magda lived in a small house about 2 miles off Route 6. There she worked at a loom, weaving wool gathered from the sheep that she owned. Magda's husband was dead and she had no children, only a cat named Louis. Dun dun dun. Magda's heart pounded as a tank truck roared by. Dun! The horn hurt her ears, making her feel sick inside, stealing some of her strength. 4 years before, Magda had found Louis at one of the gas stations on Route 6. She'd been on her way home from her weekly trip to the grocery store and had pulled in for a fill-up. As she stood inside the station in front of the cigarette machine, dropping in quarters, she felt warm fur against her leg and had given a start. Looking down, she'd seen an orange and white kitten. It had purred and meowed and pushed its nose into Magda's shoes. Smiling, Magda had picked the kitten up, and then she had seen the horror. Half of the kitten's tail was gone. What remained was bloody and scabbed, and the stump stuck straight out. Magda had carried the animal to one of the station attendants. Okay. What can we learn about her there?
She, cared.
She's a caring person, right? Even though we've seen that she's really fierce, right?
That's probably why she's fierce, because she doesn't want that to happen again.
Okay, so where are we going to put that she's a caring person?
Action. The thoughts.
I might put it in her thoughts because we know what she's thinking, right?
Yeah.
She's thinking that was horrible, right? What happened to this kitten?
She doesn't want it to happen again.
But she doesn't want Louis to die.
Saw the horror. And that was her tail. Whose kitten is this? Her eyes drilled in the question. That's another example of her what? That's her fierceness again, right? Because her eyes drilled in that question. The attendant had shrugged his shoulders. Nobody's. Just a drop-off. Magda had moved closer to him. What happened to its tail? She asked the words slow and clear. Got caught in the door. Stupid cat was under everyone's feet. No wonder half its tail got whacked. Magda could not believe such a thing. And you offer it no help? She had asked. Not my cat, he answered. Magda's face had blazed as she turned and stalked out the door with the kitten. She's what? She's fierce. A veterinarian mended what was left of the kitten's tail, and Magda had named it Louis for her grandfather. Louis! Louis! Where are you? Dun dun! Another horn at her back. Magda wondered about her decision to walk Route 6 rather than drive it. She had thought that on foot she might find Louis more easily. In a ditch, under some bushes, up a tree. They were even, she and Louis, if she were on foot too. But the trucks were making her misery worse. Magda saw a dairy bar up ahead. She thought she would stop and rest. She would have some coffee and a slice of quiet away from the road. She walked across the wide gravel lot to the tiny walk-up window. Pictures of strawberry sundaes, spongy shakes, cones with curly peaks, were plastered all over the building, drawing business from the road with big red words like chili. Magda barely glanced at the young girl working inside. All teenage girls looked alike to her. "Coffee," she ordered. "Black?" "Yes." Magda moved to one side and leaned against the building. The trucks were rolling out on the highway, but far enough away to give her time to regain her strength. No horns, no smoke, no dirt, a little peace. She drank her coffee and thought about Louis when he was a kitten. Once he had leapt from her attic window, and she had found him, stunned and shivering on the hard gravel below. The veterinarian had said Louis broke a leg and was lucky to be alive. The kitten had stomped around in a cast for a few weeks. Magda drew funny faces on it to cheer him up. What do we learn about her right there?
She's happy.
Like,
She has thoughts for being happy.
she's happy. What can we say about her as a character, though? Yes, like we can tell through that she was definitely happy, but what can we say about her as a character instead of her feelings?
She's unpolite.
She's unpolite?
Because it said right here. It said coffee. She said that she doesn't say please.
I think that has to do with kind of her fierceness and then her worry about the cat. But looking at what we just read about her and that cat. So he broke his leg, right? He jumped out the attic window, broke his leg, had a cast on for a few weeks, and what'd she do?
She cares because she drew funny faces on it to make him feel better.
She cares. Can we say that she can
She's loving.
have kind of a silly side?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of silly, like to think you're gonna draw faces on your cat's cast and then it's gonna make him feel better? So she's not always fierce and strong, right?
She's also.
We also learned that she
nice
can
and
sometimes be
Nice and funny.
kind of silly, right? And that's an action because she
Drew funny faces on her cat's cats.
Louis loved white cheese, tall grass, and the skeins of wool that Magda left lying around her loom. That's what she would miss most, she thought, if Louis never came back, an orange and white cat making the yarn fly under her loom. Magda finished her coffee and then turned to throw the empty cup in the trash. As she did, a little sign at the bottom corner of the window caught her eye. The words were surrounded by dirty smudges. "For Sal, cat." Magda caught her breath. She moved up to the window and this time looked squarely into the face of the girl. "Are you selling a cat?" she said quietly, but hard on cat. "Not me. This boy," the girl answered, brushing her stringy hair out of her face. "Where is he?" Magda asked. "That yellow house right off the road up there." Magda headed across the lot. She had to knock only once. The door opened, and standing there was a boy about 15. "I saw your sign," Magda said. "I'm interested in your cat." The boy did not answer. He looked at Magda's face with his wide blue eyes, and he grinned, showing a mouth of rotten and missing teeth. Magda felt a chill move over her. "The cat," she repeated. "You have one to sell? Is it orange and white?" The boy stopped grinning. Without a word, he slammed the door in Magda's face. She was stunned. A strong woman like her, to be so stunned by a boy, it shamed her. But again she knocked on the door, very hard this time. No answer. What kind of boy is this? Magda asked herself. A strange one, and she feared he had Louis. She had just raised her hand to knock a third time when the door opened. There the boy stood with Louis in his arms. Again, Magda was stunned. Her cat was covered with oil and dirt. He was thin and his head hung weakly. When he saw Magda, he seemed to use his last bit of strength to let go a pleading cry. The boy no longer was grinning. He held Louis against him, forcefully stroking the cat's ears again and again. The boy's eyes were full of tears, his mouth twisted into a sad protest. Magda wanted to leap for Louis, to steal him and run for home. But she knew better. This was an unusual boy. She She must be careful. Magda put her hand into her pocket and pulled out a $1 bill. Enough? She asked, holding it up. The boy clutched the cat harder, his mouth puckering fiercely. Magda pulled out 2 more $1 bills. She held up the money, the question in her eyes. The boy relaxed his hold on Louis. He tilted his head to one side, as if considering Magda's offer. And then, in desperation, Magda pulled out a $20 bill. Enough? She almost screamed. The boy's head jerked upright, and then he grabbed all the bills with one hand and shoved Louis at Magda with the other. Magda cradled Louis in her arms, rubbing her cheek across his head before walking away. She looked once more at the boy. He stood stiffly with the money clenched in his hand, tears running from his eyes and dripping off his face like rainwater. Magda took Louis home. She washed him and healed him, and for many days she was in a rage at the strange boy who had sold her her own cat, nearly dead. When Louis was healthy, though, and his old fat self playing games amongst the yarn beneath her loom, her rage grew smaller and smaller until finally she could forgive the strange boy. She came to feel sympathy for him, remembering his tears, and she wove some orange and white wool into a pattern, stuffed it with cotton, sewed 2 green button eyes and a small pink mouth onto it, and then attached a matching stub of a tail. She put the gift in a paper bag, and on her way to the grocery store one day, she dropped the bag in front of the boy's yellow house. Okay, what can we say about her, what she did at the end?
She feels bad.
Okay, what can we say about her, though? That's more like an emotion. Like, what can we say about her?
She's a little bit fierce now.
I wouldn't say she was fierce right there. Who have I not called on? Sadie?
She was, I forgot it.
Got it? Carson?
She's forgiving.
She's forgiving.
But
It took her a little while,
yeah,
but
she's
she's forgiving. And what did she do? What was it in? How did we learn it?
Thoughts.
No, action.
Actions, right? Something she did. So she was forgiving
A lot of this stuff.
because she did what?
She
made a cat.
She made a cat. That looked exactly like
Louis and gave him to the boy.
So it took her a while because she was really mad, right? She paid like $23 for her own cat to this boy who was rather strange and didn't seem to have been taking care of the cat very well.
and I would have trusted my cat. And the cat was nearly dead.
The cat was nearly dead. You can tell me why you think the cat was nearly dead. Do you think that was because he was just mistreating the cat, Olivia?
Oh, maybe he didn't have enough money for the vet bills or something, or he couldn't.
Didn't have enough money.
He couldn't take care of him because he didn't have any of the supplies to help him or the food.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so what you guys are going to be doing is going back to your seats, and you've already picked the books that you want to use. You're going to be focusing on a character, okay? The main character in whatever story that you picked, okay? So if I was doing it on The False Prince, my main character would be Sharon, yes. If I was going to do The Hunger Games, my main character would be
Katniss.
Katniss. If I was going to do The Roar, my main character would be Micah. Perfect. You are going to, on your green sheet, you are going to write the text that you picked, whatever story you picked. You're going to write action, talk, thoughts. And you're going to be writing down ways that you learn about your character, okay? So think about events that happen, things that they say, and then thoughts that they have, and how that helps to shape your idea about how that person is, okay? After we work on notes for a couple days, you guys are going to get to choose a project to do about that character, okay? And one of the projects is going to be a paper bag project where you pick 5 objects that represent that character and say why. Another will be creating a song or a rap about that character. And then the third will be doing a monologue or drama about that character. And I will be giving you examples of these in a couple of days once we get far enough along in our notes to make that possible, okay? So, when you go back to your seats right now, I'm going to be coming around to talk to you guys. I want you to start looking through your book, start finding things to write down for actions, talk, and thoughts.
So we go.
Questions?
Do we put it? Do we write out the green piece of paper?
Write on the green piece of paper. Yep. Any other questions? Okay, heading back to our seats.
Do we have to write the title at the top or on the?
Title at the top where we have a bad road for cats.
What do we do?
You can put those on your desk right now.
Have your name on it?
Doesn't matter. You're gonna keep it. I'm not touching it right now. Don't follow me all the way. Okay, start looking for examples. Write their stuff down. Title at the top. Actions, talk, thoughts.
Do I write the full title
You can just write Magnus Chase. Hilo is the main character, I would say. You can do either one. I would say those would be either one.
I have a question on how to write it because do I write it like that or do I just write it?
Just write it.